Hi, welcome. We are here for another Monday Mindset Moment. And the reason that we come together, on the regular is to really build our resilience as parents so that we can set up our kids for success and also being able to weather the storms of life. Just been talking really frankly and openly with some other caregivers and parents in my world personally. We're just starting to acknowledge the world that our children is inheriting from us. These are the kids that are now, have COVID as part of their upbringing, part of their childhood. Also, the impending crisis of climate change, political divisiveness in the states, all these reasons that, they're going to need to be resilient in the world more than ever. And what we've come to know from the research is that one of the most important things that we as the caregivers and parents can provide is a warm, trusted, supportive adult who really sees our child's needs, meets them, and also sees our child's potential and helps them to rise to it. So we're talking about a blend of many things here: how to be warm, how to be supportive, and how to also provide structure and a sense of actually like a demanding side of things where they're able to then understand what their edge of growth is and reach for it. So one of the most important things I've heard is that that parents are concerned about is, what if my kid stops communicating with me? And that's why the theme of today's Monday Mindset Moment is, please talk to me, earning your child's trust and respect and confidence in the relationship and in you. So 3 tips for how, let's just dive right in. 3 tips for how to really earn your child's trust, really build that confidence within the relationship. Of course, I have 1,000 tips on this, but 3 essential ones that I think that any parent could, just pick up and use right away include this first one. Whenever kids are looking at us and deciding, teens and tweens too, whether or not our perspective has value, whether or not our advice has merit, whether or not our guidance is something to listen to, they are, without even doing it consciously, measuring how much integrity we have. Integrity is really that what you say is what you do. What you ask for is how ask for others to be, you are being. There's a lot of integrity in, for example, walking your talk. We've heard that, walk your talk, right? However, parents often fall into a pattern of asking our kids to do things that we're not modeling for them. So the number one thing that you can embrace as a parent is that I am showing more. My kids are learning more from me by what I do and show them than what I say and tell them. This was monumentally impactful when I became an early childhood educator, because young children are especially sensitive to whether or not you are actually doing what you're asking, if you're actually showing them what you're telling them. If you tell a young child, calm down, take 3 deep breaths, and you're tense and your voice is showing that, they're just hearing, the message they're hearing is, I don't mean what I say. I don't do what I tell you to do. And actually, when somebody is not calm, you need to get really upset and tell them to be calm, which is not the intention of that message, right? The message is actually something like, sweetie, I really care about you. And the way you're behaving right now has me concerned. I really would like to help you find a way to calm down. I need you to be calm in this situation. This is a situation that requires calm. So let's figure this out together. How about if we try some breathing, right? Notice that my affect was pretty neutral. It was calm. I used a calm voice, and I was sharing my true feelings and collaborating and all these other skills that I teach, my clients in immersion and in my school workshop series and upcoming series as well. But I just think that if we can come away with just, am I role model, this question is key question, am I role modeling the behavior that I seek? If I want my child to come to me and get my attention rather than scream my name from across the house, what do I need to do in order to show my child that this is how we communicate in the household? I love that one because it's almost, for many of us, we kind of go, "Ooh, yeah, that's a good one, Vanessa," because I don't like it when my kid screams mom or dad or grandma or whatever, right? Mama, right across the house, and expects me to just drop what I'm doing and come to them unless there's an emergency, right? Because I'm usually like, whoa, what is it? Or like, oh my gosh, like I'm at their beck and call or something. But I do it all the time. So if you want your child to, for example, come into the room and get your attention first and be kind of polite about how they're interrupting you and be a little less demanding and a little bit more requesting with getting their needs met, then you might need to model that for them too, that you do that in their direction as well. I know this because anything I did would be times 24 or times 36 or times 48, depending on how many children were in my care. If I started yelling across that room, I guarantee within a 1-day cycle, kids started to yell each other's names across the room and call to me as well. It would just happen spontaneously without direct instruction. So what you show, what you model, it really, really counts. And it doesn't just count for like getting the results you want, like you want the behaviors you want or the attitudes you want, the tone that you want. It also reflects on how much they can trust you, your words and your requests. I have inspired a lot more confidence in my students when I do what I say, and in my own family, my stepchildren, the child in my household now. Yeah. So it's really important. Be willing to go first and role model first and try to embody or behave the way you want your child to behave. So key. Okay. So lots of layers of why that's really important. Tell me one way in the comments or chat that you could bring this into greater integrity. Just pick one behavior. It could be like that calm down first before you ask for calm example. It could be be in the same room as the person you're talking to so that you can politely interrupt or politely get someone's attention, or something else. What's one thing that you think you could shift right now to start building more of this trust and really start to claim this role of being a role model? Okay. All right. So put it in the chat, put it in the comments. If you're on YouTube, you can put it in the comments. I'll get a notification and I'll be jamming with you there. So that was number one. Does this make some sense? Yeah. That's a great way to earn your child's trust and confidence in you, and also to get more of the behavior you're seeking. The side effect too is that it calls upon you to amplify your best character strengths. I know that I'm a better person because I have rise to the occasion of being a role model for children. I am more patient. I am more calm. I am more solution oriented. I'm more hopeful. I'm more optimistic. I'm more creative, critical thinker. I'm more intentional with like breaking things down into smaller steps. And I'm also more compassionate about the learning cycle, and that it might take a lot of practice to get where you want to go. All of these qualities have been cultivated because I've needed to role model them to children. Getting curious instead of getting judgmental, all these things. Because I know that how I behave in front of the children speaks 10 to 100 times louder than what I tell the children to do. It's just what happens. It's such a natural thing. We're social learners. And we have these mirror neurons that fire, and we learn a lot from mirroring what the example we're given. How many of you know you have at least one habit you picked up that wasn't taught to you? Like whether it's a certain way, like this one kid came back from a weekend of some relatives visiting and stubbed his toe, and he goes, "Gosh darn it all," like this little 3-year-old. I was like, where did you learn that phrase? And he had only spent 2 days with his grandfather, who said that a couple times in his presence, to come up with a little script of what you're supposed to say when you do something like stub your toe or drop something. Nobody taught him. No one's like sat him down. It's like, you know what you should do when you stub your toe is you should say, "Gosh darn it all." Nobody taught him directly or told him to do that. He just picked it up. How many of you know that your kids pick things up all the time? Yeah. Okay. So we're not saying perfect, right? We're saying be a striving adult, be a striving human in front of your child. Be transparent when you make a mistake. Be transparent when you're putting an effort to try to be better at something. Let them know that you're a human being in process, and that will also earn trust. So that is tip number 2. Tip number 2 is be vulnerable about the fact that you are not a fully cooked human. How many of you know what I mean? Like, I often had the misperception that adults were fully cooked. Like that's just, they're like static. Like that's who they are. That's what they are. They have this job, they have this house, they have this, or, this living situation. They have this hobby they like and whatever. This adult is just this adult. And then all of a sudden my teacher would get like a radically different haircut and it would be like shocking. You're like, but you're not supposed to change, right? So we want to help kids realize sooner than I did, probably sooner than many of us did, that human beings are always evolving and changing. And it's actually an invitation to have more of a growth mindset, which is the deeper takeaway. But what it does for the relationship is it helps them to consider you somebody who is a viable thought partner in their experience of growth. Because if you are actively growing and changing and you're talking about it, you're thinking about it out loud, you're sharing your successes, you're sharing your challenges, you're sharing the efforts, you're sharing your plans, breaking things down, giving little mini reports of progress, being human and vulnerable in front of your child around the fact that you are also a human being who also has these things that they experience, these hopes, these dreams, these aspirations, these, obstacles. They will trust you much more and they will feel more comfortable bringing things to you because it's less intimidating to go to an elder in your life, an authority figure in your life, if you think that there's going to be less judgment about the fact that you're still in progress trying to figure things out. You're still in progress, trying and failing until you have a breakthrough. How many of you know that you'd be more willing to go to a mentor or somebody that you look up to who you believe is still in progress learning, is still in it with you? Brene Brown has this quote, and I'm probably going to botch it, but I'm going to paraphrase it. So I'll just say I'm not going to botch it. I'm paraphrasing it, which is that she gets all this. She had a really hard time getting all these critiques of her work at first, and it was partly paralyzing her to go forward with publishing more of her research or publishing another book and things like that. It was just kind of gut-wrenching. How many of you can relate, just like being exposed like that, being vulnerable, and maybe your child looking at you as not their idol and this perfect thing, but somebody who might actually make mistakes could be a little intimidating or scary. But what she said was something like, unless you're in the ring with me, blood, sweat, tears, fighting your own mighty battle next to me, then I'm not really going to, your words are not going to weigh the same as somebody who's in it with me. So in other words, all these people who are like, have these comments, good or bad, about her work, it's fine. But what she's really going to listen to and pay attention to are the people who are in the ring with her. So part of why is because there's more trust, implicit trust of having somebody actually in it with you. Okay, so 2 ways so far to build trust and confidence. Role model the behavior you seek. Really try to be in as much integrity as possible, and to share vulnerably that you're a human being in progress too. Now, this doesn't mean turn your child into your therapist, your main confidant, and have them carry the emotional burdens of your ups and downs at all times. That's not what we're talking about. But we are talking about giving them a glimpse in to your process. Thinking out loud, like, I really, last time I did this, it didn't go so well. I wonder what could work differently, just those kinds of things. Like, be vulnerable in sharing your process and knowing that it doesn't actually, it's not weakness. It's not like, here's my vulnerable spot, now you can poke it. It's more like getting in the ring with them. Okay. And the last one, the third one, is this is actually an interesting, nuanced one. So really listen up to this, because whether you do this or not, you can keep an eye out for it in the environment. Because what I've seen trending is that from the 80s and 90s, where we had so much focus on making sure like children actually have this thing called self-esteem, and we need to protect their self-esteem. And then a whole bunch of great research came out around like social emotional learning and growth and everything. But what was lost in the message sometimes was this idea that we need to just praise our children so they know that they're doing a good job and that we love them. Yes, they need to know they're loved. Yes, they need to know when they're putting in an effort and that we recognize their effort. Really important things. However, what you praise matters. And if you go down one road of praise, it can actually erode trust versus another road of praise. Okay, so I'm going to make a quick distinction. And this is something that we spent a whole session on in my Motivation Mastery Weekend bonus retreat that all of my year-long clients in my Family Foundations Immersion program get to really dive into growth mindset, the science behind it, how it works, and how praise can be a really powerful kind of tool in moving towards a growth mindset, or unfortunately towards a fixed mindset. So here's the distinction. When you praise your children, the way to build trust and earn their confidence in your praise, I'm going to give you a couple of tips, is to be specific, to focus on things they have control over, and this is looping back to tip number 1, and to model receiving praise gracefully. So I'm going to start with that one. If they see you saying, no, I'm not, oh, no, I'm not that good, like just kind of trying to be humble in the face of praise and always like arguing against it, they're going to do the same thing. And they're going to internalize that being praised is a bad thing and I shouldn't accept it and I shouldn't believe it. So be careful with that one. Okay. So going back to the role model, graceful acceptance of praise. And sometimes sometimes there's a little mixture. It's like a little self-deprecation. Like, well, I don't know about that, but I really appreciate you seeing that. And thank you. I'm learning, and you can even say, I'm learning to know that is a strength of mine, or I'm learning to see that I'm doing a good job. I'm learning, right? So showing that growth mindset, even around being self-deprecating toward, like moving towards being more self-aware or self-confident, I guess, deserving of praise, right? Worthy of praise. Okay. And then the specific and the things in control, like, so let's package this all up together and put a little bow on it. So praising towards what they do have control over and being specific, like descriptive. So it could sound something like, so let's do the what not to do. Good job on your work today. Okay. It sounds a little judgmental, like it's either good or bad job. And if you always say good job, then there's no sense of what is a good job? What is a bad job? It's just all good. So no matter what I do, it's good. That's a little suspicious, right? Instead, if you're specific, it shows that you're actually paying attention. You're not just sort of like giving maybe an empty compliment. So it's like, I noticed that when you got stuck on the second page, you did a smart thing and decided to take a little break, get a snack, get some water, and you were really perseverant in going back and trying again after you'd had a little moment to recover from the frustration. That was a really strategic move. Nice one. Okay, first of all, specific, right? Describing what I saw them do. I even threw in some bonus character strengths there, if you might have heard them. And then like, it's something that was under their control. And sometimes I'll even say, like, you could have given up and said this assignment's stupid, or complained and like, or just avoided it for another 3 hours until it was due. But you didn't. You made a conscious choice to get back in there and go for it and keep going. I really admire that about you. Like, even just hearing that compliment, does something in your nervous system feel good? Like, it does. It feels good to give this compliment. It's like, oh, right. These are something I have control over this. I can do this. Cool. Nice. It's inspiring rather than sort of judgmental and sort of fixing the equality on them. Like, you're like, or kind of giving an empty piece of praise. So 3 things you can do to build trust. Let's go backwards. Give specific compliments on things that they put effort into, or have some sort of influence over how it goes, right? A choice they made, something that that they could have gone another way, but they made a different choice, right? Really important. Builds a lot of confidence and trust. Second one is be willing to be vulnerable and share that you're a human being in progress, without burdening them too much, but just really show, yeah, like I'm a viable thought partner for all the ways that you're going to be learning and growing, and I'm in the ring with you. And then the first one is role modeling. And I think particularly we focused on role modeling things like, when you're asking for a certain emotion or a certain like tone to use that tone. Like one of my favorite things to give feedback for teachers when I see it is when they're like, everybody quiet. I'm like, the message is that you want everyone to quiet down, but what you're also saying is when you want things to be quiet, get louder. And if I was just to mirror you, because I'm trying to mirror you or you're my guide, I would get louder, and versus like having some sort of signal, some sort of clapping or something, and then you use a really quiet voice. Like, okay, everybody, we got to bring the volume down. That is so much more effective, right? And you can see why. So that tones, modeling things like how to even, accept a compliment, any kind of behaviors or grace and courtesy kind of skills that you want are really great to role model as well, like interrupting politely, how to get someone's attention, things like that. So I'm curious, what did you get out of this Monday mindset moment? Bonus points if you can just pop the 3 tips in the chat or the comments. And also let us know where you're tuning in from, ages of your kids, and what you want the most support with right now in your parenting world. And we'd love to direct you to the resources that would be a good fit for you. All right, lots of love to you all. We will be back next week for a Ask Me Anything segment where we address the topics and questions raised by our newest members. But everybody can get something out of these topics. They're also valuable. So please come back. It's a longer format. And so we'll be together for about 45 minutes next week. We'll see you then. All right. Lots of love to you. Until then, be resilient, be kind, and we'll see each other soon.